hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duties as a journalist that questions properly, uses his ears for the good to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God, stepping in score, Sunyas Allah, a.k.a. S.STREET. Hello. And we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media. Every intrigue will have its own show. Every incredible thought will have its own episode. And every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say every episode, this is about my element of hip-hop. The writer of what I say is art on art and science on music. This is the only show in history on the hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over 20 years, helped pioneer. That art on art. Making our own art pieces inspired by the art that we cover. And the science on music. Giving some real details, some real insight to things. You know, and I always like to start with an addendum, if I have one. The last show we had, episode 37, we talked about the beef that A-Preem has with Vinnie Paz. I don't think it's a beef both ways. I don't think that Vinnie Paz will be answering this. He might mention it, maybe on an album in the future, but I don't think he can answer to it. But I played it in the beginning of the show, Peace to God, A-Preem, so people can make their own decision about what they thought about this song face value. But it's tough. That's a hard one to come back from. So maybe just not swing, you know? Maybe you just take the seat on that one. But this show's based on art and art, and there's two people I'm thinking about this week, you know, since we're going back, and I was forced to go back, and we're pleasantly going back out of being forced to. I would say that the first going back pleasantly is that thinking back on Sean Price, right? One of the most sincere MCs that has ever MC'd. Oftentimes, I think that people laughed, you know, it merged between people laughing with him and even at him when he rhymed and the way he was comedic. But I consider Sean Price the ultimate stylist of this decade. I consider him the star of this invisible renaissance. You know what I mean? Hell, shit, I think niggas wasn't really wearing beards like that until Sean P came. You know? I think that became more of a thing. You know what I mean? Where even the whack rappers have beards and shit. It had to hide some bars inside that fur, you know? That facial fur. We would hope. But there's a piece I wrote. I embedded it into a piece on one of Sky Zoo's albums that I reviewed. I'm pretty sure it was the one with the easy, I think it's called The Easy Truth, the one with Apollo Brown doing the beats. But I called this one All Praises Due P. The needle-fitted piercing in at the measure of 7 1/8. A capsule for my supremacy with an extra tiny space for my boundless rage. Gallantly smashed upright on the tailored cross, the podium of crucifixion they muster for an exotic militant. They filthed me so that my light brown skin is now alchemizing sunlight in the appropriate prose. My nails, never long but always at the end of right words for wrong ciphers, are custom chiseled to pain my hands' flesh particulars. Bloody, I quietly recite a sanctifying sutra. Lord Jesus Christ, you had rhymed for us, now thou one with us. Where right is lost and soul is sin, blessing souls through song bins. May we laugh and bash evil we see in our own revolutions of perfection. Purr. That's my Sean P. hymn. You know what I mean? If all praises are due, though, we recite those hymns when times are tough. You know what I mean? Attack the things that we were doing, though, and not giving a fuck. You know, it's very rare for artists to reinvent themselves. And the best type of artist that reinvents themselves isn't the one that's looking at niche markets that have changed, which is how so many of them do it, but just artists that felt that they never really got to get the best out of themselves. So now they're gonna free up those obstructions that are stopping them. And that's the epitome of Sean Price's career, you know? And had to throw a salute that way, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things I've written about P, including a piece I wrote about what I thought about Sean Price called Remembered Imperfection P. That's on premierhiphop.com if you want to check it out. But I haven't written anything immediately published because I'm focusing on new work, you know, that I'm hearing this year. But there's only a few stellar works that deserve like a real pen to it. You know what I mean? A lot of things are noteworthy, but there's only 3 pieces in my head that long players that demand something to be written about, and I will write something. But I got a book coming soon, right? It's tentatively titled The Filtered Reel, Essays from the Invisible Renaissance. It'll include the reel of 2018, a much more broader, deeper look, and a couple of other essays about related ideas and just flipping the script, you know what I mean? I started writing stuff, but it became too long, so I figured I'd make it a nice little ebook, you know? And when that's ready, you know, I'll throw it out there. But I got to say this. I was awoke this morning and I was dreading doing this show. I said, I hope my producers have not come back from their trip at SW, you know. I hope that they're still out there. Maybe they found SWV and they were rocking with SWV and decided to stay there. With every single S and V and whatever letter you could find, they would find it there. Because the last week for me has been really a dreaded research, a research that I didn't want to, you know, and so I really didn't want to do this shit. So now for this, I'm gonna put this in the section of Peace Course clips where I talk about ideas that are about probably the most influential group, I think, in the mindset of the MC's higher thinking. If we take Rakim as that lead, and even KRS-One, and that's the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths, and I call it Peace Course clips because my course I teach every week at a law school in Mecca is called the Peace Course. So I like to take little clips, ideas, and all that. But in this case, I'm applying that to the music. And this one I subtitled The Tragedy of the Non-Story. So now I have to curse you all, as I've been cursed, to talk about the most tragic non-story. So it's a non-story, and I got to make a fucking story out of it. You know what I mean? And the deeper lining is that Guru shined despite solar eclipse. That's my New York Post headline. You know what I mean? Like when you get those little bit headlines, it'd be Guru shined despite solar eclipse. And so it all goes back to this, right? There's a book out that Guru passed away in 2010. His demise was sad. It was a tragic passing away. It was abrupt to us because we weren't really following. Let's keep it real. We weren't really following that much or that intensely Guru's work. I was, and I wasn't really into it. I never was. And I'll explain why. But I never was when he decided to work with Solar and make works with Solar. I thought they were coming out mediocre at best. And I also, I also think many things why this happened, as far as them meeting and him dealing with him. But I'll mention those things later. But throughout the passing, Solar was exposed on many levels. He had his emails hacked. These emails were shared. You could go look up the Philip Minor piece in Village Voice on those hacked emails. There was nothing that Philip Minor could even call the article but pretty much reiterate that Solar's a piece of shit for these emails. That's literally how they wrote the shit. Like, imagine you go into your top editor and goes, I don't know what to call this shit, though. I don't know. There's nothing else to call it but evil. You know what I mean? Evil. Someone that it came across that they were blood-sucking guru. Using their mediocre talents, though, on a worldly, rare talent. And who I call guru. I call guru the perfect embodiment of the heart of hip-hop's integrity. When you look up what the integrity of an MC, the integrity of someone that does hip-hop, what it would look like, and a dictionary picture, I'd put Guru right there. You know what I mean? I would absolutely put him in there. You know what I mean? And one of my brothers, shout out to Godsar, you know, it's just a casual Facebook post bemoaning this fucking book coming out and I commented on it, you know, and this is what I said. I said I won't even mention the shit on any of my forums. That is this this book that he has coming out. He's been exposed and he's making nothing, and Guru's making nothing. He's been exposed and he's making nothing off this, right? That is respect, I mean. But every media outlet sharing this is making an absolute mistake, right? And I still concur with my initial thought on that. I spoke on my last show, that was episode 37, of what I call opportunity cost in music. That is what and it also applies to the journalist. What a journalist covers in the always limited space. And that includes the internet, because the internet is limited by the time to write on everything. And sometimes money, right? Because some sites, they sell by the space. But in general, if you have your own site where you could write whatever you want, you're still limited by time. So there's still an opportunity cost in what you cover, you know? And that's probably why articles are so shitty now, you know what I mean? Because they want to cover everything instead of covering things well. Anyway, I also said unless the outlet is blatantly exposing Solar's devilishment, they are promoting it. And I said this, I said this fucking piece of shit. I went into Tony Montana language, right? This fucking piece of shit is talking about his devilishment as alleged, right? And leading the listener to curiosity by acting like Solar just never got to tell his story. This is my beef with the way that it was presented, this idea of the book. So these bullshit mags tell the wrong story twice. Fucking respect fake. Exactly what I mean by leeches. That is leech media on leech artists. You know, that's what a leech is. It's an early definition I gave in my media mutation segment in one of the first shows that we did here at the Power Right Show. And I wrote that in the God's Wall, you know. And I don't follow Solar on social media. I don't even know if he has one or whatever. And all of a sudden I'm getting DM'd, you know what I mean? And he's saying, hey, look, you know, we got into it before, but, you know, we're both coming in the name, you know, I'm Solar Allah, and, you know, you're the God, and, you know, can we not do this on the internet? We could build, and I could tell you my side, and this and that. So, yeah, here I know that this is not going to end fruitfully. So I just say, okay, because I'm curious. He's coming in the name more viciously. Like, that is, he's coming as a 5%er. Like, he's part of the 5% nation of God is Nerds. Like, he lives by the teachings. He's coming in. His name is Solar Allah. He's claiming. And so I say, I'll call you. Give me your number and I'll call you and everything like that. So I don't do it immediately because it's, you know, come on, man. I didn't get to eat yet or anything like that. You know, it's just, come on. So I decided to do it the next day, right? And I think of that Q-Tip line. I forgot what song it was on Low End Theory when he goes, getting stomach aches when you got to go to work. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I got to do this shit. I got to call this guy and everything like that. You know what I mean? I could be reading. I'm thinking of my own opportunity cost in life. You know what I mean? But I call him up. And I record the call. So I have proof, you know? I have proof of what went down and this conversation. And it was based on him saying he's the God. So he's saying that he's my heir, like he's my brother in the knowledge itself. So I go to talk to him, and you know, I'm inspecting. I'm turning to inspect the deck, but at the same time, is because we could do that when we have this knowledge like that. We do that with the people that say. So I say, what is your tree? And for those who are unfamiliar, in the Nation of Gods and Earths, when we get this knowledge itself, we root it like a tree. So we have those who taught us, and it goes back to the very first teachers of Allah the Father who started this nation. So he started to teach everybody, and he had his own firstborn, first 9 born, 9 individuals that he said are his firstborn. And all of us, like a martial arts lineage, we could trace our tree back to that one firstborn. That would obviously go back to Allah the Father. And some of us, as myself, we go back to one of them, but we also knew others. So, You know, so the tree could be expansive too. It is not limited to one individual in that firstborn tree. But when I go through it and I say, well, who taught you this knowledge of self? Who did you go under the study? Who did you learn what these mathematics are, what this language is, what supreme alphabet is, and memorize it and learn 120 and what it means and how to apply it to all the things that you read and become a well-rounded individual? All of these things. Who did you teach? We didn't even get there because he's telling me about some light-skinned character in the Warriors film. Now, for those who don't know, he's not talking about Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He's talking about the Warriors film, right? If I'm right, 1979, right? And I got this DVD. I haven't watched the movie in years. I very rarely repeat movies, by the way. I usually repeat movies that I like to watch little parts, but dialogue, but mainly kung fu flicks. I'm always watching kung fu flicks, and we try to do something crazy that we see in there. It never changes for me. You know what I mean? And I'm not really checking. I haven't checked for it. I'm not going to check for it just because of that. Because that's not how you get a knowledge of self. So he's claiming, and he claimed this in the book as well, that he got knowledge of that his story starts back in Bed-Stuy and learning there in the Bed-Stuy area, Flatbush area. So it's near the heart of Medina, you know, these areas, what we call the heart of Medina. For those that are haters, I hear there's a lot of haters, right? And producer tells me, I'm not from the heart of Medina, you know what I'm saying? I'm from the lung. I call it the lung, you know? It was a very badly breathing lung, but it was a lung, you know what I mean? And out in Sunset Park. And so he's saying it's from the heart, though. And I said, oh, well and good. A lot of people from Flatbush, though, and a lot of savages from Flatbush, too. You know what I'm saying? It's like saying I come from Sunset, so I know about salsa. You know, I don't know. It might not be true. So I realized that he doesn't really have the knowledge of self, and I make him blatantly say it. I make him blatantly say that he has not gone under the study. He's just familiar with the gods and stuff. So again, that's not a point of brotherhood in that case, because when you say that your name is a righteous name, though, you either are sincerely studying it. You're in the study. You're working to study this shit. You know what I mean? There's real science to this stuff. You know what I mean? There's real application to this stuff. So you could say that you adhere to a lot of the 5% doctrine. You respect it. That's all well and good. That's real great. But if you're coming in name saying you're this, you're coming in the name of Allah, then you're either somewhere in the study of that. And he was nowhere in the study of that. In fact, he spoke like he already knows that he did enough studying for it. I'm not here to tell a grown man what he's got to do, so that's good. This phone call was to check off boxes, and that box was enough for me. I heard him talk about a lot of things, but he didn't. And I don't have to reenact the whole phone call because all of his talking points were exactly what I would read in the rest of the book. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, no, I read this fucking book for you, so you don't have to read it though. It's like a bad pregame before the real book event that S.STREET Media is going to have in April. You know what I mean? Like, terrible, terrible. It was a badly written book. It was laid out as a PDF that did not translate into the EPUB, Mobi, in this case, Mobi format. So what you see is lines that go long and then one word on the next line. So the margins were all off. You know what I mean? So it was a difficult read. It was basically, there was no headings for chapters that were separated. There was no work on this. The writing style was done sloppy. And none of that, though, is a worthy critique or even necessary. Let me go into the book. It's clear, and I'm going to tell you this. The cover has the Gangstar logo on it. It is called Moment of Truth. It is clear from what he told me, and I'm going to tell you the most important thing he told me later on the phone call, because it goes against to what I see in his page on Facebook. But when we go into the book, it's clear, and he said this to me, he does own whatever Guru owned as part of Gangstar. He has those rights. You know what I mean? So it's like those bad movies. It's like and in this case, it's like a bad Lifetime movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like a Lifetime movie. Like this evil husband or something got the woman's whole jewelry and shit, and got all the deeds and everything, and signed it over, and we returned it to the Essence, and now he owns that whole lot, that whole mansion shit. Some crazy shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But that's why the logo could be on the cover. That's why he could use Moment of Truth. But let's go through the books. No facts are in this book, but lots of narcissistic tendencies. He claims, I'm going to start with the craziest claim. Met Guru around 2003. There is no reenactment of how he met Guru. Like, hello, my nigga. How are you, my nigga? Because I could tell you how I met Guru as a fan. 1998, Moment of Truth. Release party. I go in there, I meet Primo first. I say, hey, the album's great. And Primo goes, how the fuck did you get the album? Because I look like this scrawny kid. Back then, I'm still the same height, but I was like 120 pounds. And I got the Moment of Truth album. I said, how the fuck did you get the album and shit? I said, yeah, they sent it to me. I'm in the college, and they sent it to me. He's great, though, by the way. He's tight, though. He's tight, but he realizes that's what they did. And then I meet Guru. For the first time, I could really talk to him and tell him like what he meant to me as a kid. He's one of my heroes growing up as a kid. Everything Guru said meant something to me. Everything. You know what I'm saying? When he returned, I shed a tear because it's like a hero. You know what I mean? Like kids that those elders that they tell you when they cried when, you know what I mean? Like when their favorite ball player would pass. You know what I mean? Like when the old Boricuas tell you they cried when Roberto Clemente died in that plane crash. You know what I'm saying? Doing the most honorable thing you could do. So I know where I met Guru. I met him in 1999 officially, where I really got to talk to him. For Full Clip, they were signing copies of Full Clip at Fat Beats. I got to tell him thank you for building with the knowledge and inspiring me all these years. You know what I mean? And he was real peace about it, you know? And, but here's the crazy shit. Doesn't really say how he met Guru, but that he linked up with Guru. And he gives this whole history of hip-hop history. A very shoddy history of hip-hop to show that's why he and Guru linked up. Because their affinity and love of hip-hop. But I'm like, you're from Flatbush. You're from Flatbush. You're also from Coney Island because they do movies after you. Everybody does fucking hip-hop. So you can relate to anybody. It doesn't say why Guru is like, I'm going to fuck with you. And I guarantee you that the answer would be a lot more generic. Guru fucked with a lot of new producers. Go look at the Guru and the Bald Head Slick. That album where Guru's just his face in a black background. Forget the name of the album. It's a Guru and the Bald Head Slick, something like that. Got production from Ayatollah, Alchemist when he was just starting, Stoop, the Enemy of Mankind before he was really getting off. A whole bunch of guys. But yo, check this out. He says he knows Guru during 2003 when they were doing The Owners, the last Gangstar album, The Owners. An album I love and I think is one of the most underrated in the catalog. Right? He says he produced a lot of those songs on The Owners. Can you get this shit? And he also says there was a song that Gangstar gave to the 8 Mile soundtrack called The Battle. It's a dope song. It's got the horns, and it's got the, you know, typical Primo shit. And he says he produced that track himself. It literally is a prototypical DJ Premier track. And he says he produced it. What the fuck is going on here? You gotta have proof. You can't just make claims like that, but the claims don't end. He constantly reiterates that he was Guru's medical proxy while he was when he was battling cancer at the last stages, right? Then he also says that he had Guru. He always had Guru, and there's many instances where he says he had Guru speaking and always correcting interviewers that this is a 50-50 partnership with Solar. However, in Location 52, this is a Moby I'm getting it from. A Moby doesn't have page numbers. It has locations. So you got the Moby, a Location 52. Solar says, as sole CEO of 7 Grand Entertainment and everything we built over the years, my role was discussed and we were clear. And this is before he talks about how he could do anything he wanted while Guru was in a coma, you know, in not stable and unable to make his own decisions. So he had Guru talking all this 50-50 shit, But he's out here saying he's the sole owner and CEO of this whole shit. Then he constantly says, the gods address themselves as G's. That's the only way they address themselves, by the way. G's. G apostrophe S. G's. And his reliance on that is just one of the many signs of how he doesn't know the language and the dialect of what we deal with. I've counted many times, and it's for another time, because for the average viewer of this show, that's not even relevant. But I can show and prove that easily. Location 339 in the book. Okay? My levels of study were much higher than Guru's because of the classes in Harlem. What classes, my nigga? Because in the 2000s, the entire 2000s, about 7 of those years in the 2000s, there was only one official class that happened every single week at the school. And that was mine. I don't remember this nigga coming through. I don't. So I just do the knowledge. He says, I was getting to know G's from all over Brooklyn and other boroughs, from Medina, Pelon, and Mecca. That's Brooklyn, Bronx, and Harlem. I was well-traveled and well-known amongst my peers. Who? I don't know, right? And then there's this disturbing, blatant dry snitch that he tries to do of Guru, and that Guru allegedly hated his sister, and thus by default, the sister's son, which is his nephew. He constantly reiterates how he hated his sister. I'm sorry, but if I wrote a book on anyone I loved that was deceased, I would not put no family shit in it. But it's very self-serving that Guru happened to hate the sister that has the son that exposes the lack of quality care and grooming and personal hygienic care Guru was receiving at the end of his life. And the fact that Guru, that other family members, including Primo and all the crew out, could not easily go and visit him. And he says to me that he couldn't, there's no way he could stop people from visiting. And that is not true. That is not true, because I went through my old earth, and when they are in that state, people that have medical proxy, because he's the one who says he has medical proxy countless times through the book, you can stop people from coming through. You actually can. Right? That is a power that is invested in you. Right? But then there are other claims that are just, you've got to have proof. Location 445. He claims there was in January of 1999, there was an assassination attempt on Guru. It was stated by police that it was just a robbery. But as you read further, he clearly insinuates that this was led by Primo. He insinuates that Primo tried to kill Guru. Are you fucking kidding me here? You know what I mean? And in the conversation to me, he really tries to piggyback off the Eric Sermon and Parrish Smith feud and beef. And the scenario he depicts is almost literally and word for word what happened with Eric Sermon and Parrish Smith. So apparently this is a duo thing, you know? Right? This is a duo thing. This happens to duos. I don't want to be a duo, okay? So soon, my producer, he's just going to try to kill me eventually. Right? We're a duo here doing the Power Right show. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And again, you can't say this shit. There's no proof. But here's the narcissistic points. He loves taking credit for all types of shit. Check it out. He says that he made up in hip hop, he made up when people say that their version 2.0, 3.0 and shit like that. Because he released Guru 7.0. That was the first album with extremely mediocre beats. And he's the first one that made that up. And now everybody in hip hop that does it got it from him. You know? He says that Jill Scott and Lupe Fiasco winning the Grammy used the hook from the sample that he found first, and they got it because they heard his sample. They heard him using the sample. Serious. Serious shit. He says this shit. He says that he's the one that led Guru into vegetarianism. You know what I mean? And, okay, but it doesn't stop there, so everything becomes more and more suspect the more he says. He constantly cites moments where Guru confessed to him that he is the greatest dude he's ever worked for. ever work for, ever work with. And yet, when he talks about the end of Guru's life, he constantly blames Guru for choosing the wrong doctoral path in his medication and treatment and surgery, right? In dealing with the cancer, as opposed to Solar, who made the better choice that was not heeded. Constantly says this shit. You know what I mean? So it's basically nothing was his fault. Nothing was his fucking fault. In fact, Guru dying was his fault. You know what I mean? But he couldn't not admit that he also, that when Guru was sick and taking medication and still had a metal plate in his back, he still was taking Guru to shows to perform. And he's lamenting how Guru looked like an old man and he didn't perform like he used to, but you were taking him to shows so he could perform. He says, by the way, I forgot this. He says that other DJ they had on their lineup, you can't listen to him because he was doing coke the whole time. So he just said that Doo-Wop, DJ Doo-Wop, was a cokehead through the whole time. One of Guru's, I don't know if it was the only one, but one of the major exposés on this story was when one of Guru's children's mothers said that when she was working for them, she constantly saw Solar slapping him and hitting him. So in this book, he constantly notes that Guru's baby mama, as he calls her, didn't visit. He hated her. He let her do what he was going to do, even though Guru still paid for her college education and all that. You know, there's a degree, though, that Solar didn't know about, though. I can hardly believe that unless I was made blind, deaf, and dumb. There's no proof in this book. It's literally, I call it now, a CIC book. It's a claims and confessional book. A lot of claims in the confessional style that is supposed to tug on the heartstrings. But I'll tell you why I can't tug on the heartstrings. Because I trust sources that are greater than his. Not sources that just because they have greater talent, but they're more trustworthy. Trust sources like Domingo, the producer, who said that before Guru fell ill, he called up Domingo and said, I want you to produce my album because I'm not fucking with Solar anymore. And he was on speakerphone, and Domingo was in a room with two other people that can verify and Guru's lawyer. That's one. And I trust Domingo because Domingo's been right and exact about a lot of shit for a long time. He's been stand up. There's also stories like Danny Hastings. Danny Hastings is the designer. He did the Cuban Links cover. He did Hard to Earn, Gangstar's Hard to Earn. I think, not sure, I think he may have done Moment in Truth, but he did more than one Gangstar cover. But he definitely did Hard to Earn, which is one of the most beautiful uses of red I've ever seen on an album cover. You know what I'm saying? It's the dopest. Danny Hastings says that when he was commissioned by Guru and Solar to do one of their covers, he had a great idea, and it was shot down by Solar so that way they could do a cheesy Matrix cover. And the way that it was shot down, the way that Danny Hastings' input was not really trusted, the way that Guru was asking Danny to please heed Solar's wishes, sounds like a man that was basically under the sword and trying to run away from some and figured and was mind warped that this was a better way to go. You see, in the knowledge of self, when it says that we are to master something, you leave it alone. To master something that is not right and exact, it's best to leave it alone. Leave those drugs, leave that alcohol, leave those shady women. And I really feel, in my own opinion of looking at this and speaking to people, I feel that Guru couldn't get off the alcoholism unless he changed his cipher. And he figured an extended change in the cipher going into his jazzmatazz roots and then Solar clinging to that was a way he felt he could get rid of it, because Solar didn't advocate him drinking. And that was a plus that he felt he needed. Sometimes you can't do that among the cipher of people that you love. And I think this is the rock and a hard place that Guru was in. But here's a problem. There's a problem that goes along with that. The disingenuousness. There's an unofficial hip-hop icon Guru page. It's called Unofficial semicolon hip hop icon guru page. It's clearly a Solar page because it's pro Solar. It shares the Solar Guru catalog only, and it blatantly promotes the book on all the social media now. Right? There's a lot of people hating on Solar though. He get fuck Solars like a motherfucker though. Right? And the page administrator is writing in there, right? And clearly the page administrator is Solar because I'm not a stupid fuck. And I know how I've already read his writing style and I heard him talk. And I know his speaking style and his talking points. And this administrator, supposed administrator, is yelling back at people dissing him saying, it doesn't matter. I own the Gangstar name as well. And Solar will be putting out Gangstar work soon enough, produced by Solar. But it'll be Gangstar in the name of Gangstar. And yet, on the phone, because he knows how I feel about Gangstar, how I feel about Primo, and that whole situation, and the integrity that Gangstar had, he says, I hope that one day we could work it out and maybe do a joint album. In my head, I'm like, but he's on his humbles when he's talking to me. He's on his laugh at people because he's got these rights that I feel have been gotten disingenuously, and that's probably the fight that Primo has been in the last 8 years. The last 8 years. So that kind of hypocrisy was immediate. The minute I get off the phone, this is the shit that I find. I'm not going to say fuck Solar. You say it for me. This shit is a non-story from now on. But we're not done with this non-story. I'm going to give you some of the most important 2 issues why I feel that Solar, I cannot listen to him and I cannot heed anything that he's saying. The first is the lack of knowledge of self. Yet full claim to coming in the name of Allah. I find that disrespectful. I find it so disrespectful that you should shut the fuck up and go back and learn some shit. Get the Knowledge of Self book that we publish where anybody could go buy it and read some of this shit. Get some of the integrity out of that book. Before you start coming in the name and thinking that you're allowed to make certain claims about people because you both had knowledge of self. You've got to have proof. We talk about knowledge, then wisdom. And a lot of wisdom was in that book. But wisdom, knowledge, though. A lot of speaking without information. But here's the maybe more important reason for all you listeners. Solar is whack. Solar is whack as fuck. Let's give you some examples. He's a weak beat maker. He is not a producer. He's a weak beat maker. Right? We're not even going to talk about the difficulty in challenging the immaculate Gangstar LPs. If Guru did albums with Muggs, if he did albums with Large Professor, if he did albums with RZA, he still would have difficulty outmatching those Gangstar albums. So we don't even have to go there. Go on Solar Official, that YouTube, and listen to Solar rapping in his own rap song called The Livest. So it is one of the most pitiful, out-of-pocket, robotic, uncharismatic displays of emceeing I've ever heard, though. You see, I apologize to Solar for saying fuck Solar because I always write something I would say blatantly to someone's face. And I wanted to listen to Solar again, and I couldn't do that if I said that. But I, in a heartbeat, will tell Solar that this shit is really whack. In fact, this episode is what's going to be mailed to him so he can listen to. You are not a good producer. You are not a fucking producer, and you're barely a beat maker. Here's why. Failed productions. I just need one example because I could do it with every single song and not bore the listener. I bored the listener enough. I'm still paying for boring you listeners with the Eminem album and that piece of shit ride. He constantly uses played out breaks. His break beat and drum game is weak. Every time I hear a drum, I go, Hihachi. Oh, that's this break. Oh, that's Melvin Bliss. Oh, that's this. Oh, those are, these drums. Boring. Listen for Guru rhyming at this video, Divine Rule. One of the most cheesiest backdrops and videos that Guru was cursed with I have ever fucking seen in my life. It's a terrible upbeat disco break that is just cornified to the nth degree. I need a new word. I need a new word. You know what I'm saying? And Guru is rhyming impeccably on it. Guru's rhyming at a near up. He's rhyming at a almost up tempo, like super fast. A tempo he never really went into. And so it was so impressive. I was like, it's a shame it was on that beat. Failed productions, getting the best out of an MC. How do you make a song with Guru and Guru sounds horrible and it's about girls? Go find the video for Jazzy Ways and see how he brutalizes that damn song. Yeah. No, that's the classic. Ex-girlfriend, X to the next is the classic. And then he does Jazzy Ways with Solar, and Guru's got no life in the beat. He's rhyming with there's no staccato, there's no like verve in his voice. It was just really horrible. Like if you were a producer and Guru gave you that effort, you would say, Guru, today is not our day to record. All right? He doesn't drink anymore. With me, let's go get some kombuchas. Let's go get some tea. Let's do whatever. Fuck this shit. You know what I mean? Failed productions. Stand Up. There's a video for that too with Damian Marley. This is another example of a good track, right? But only if you don't know that all of it is played out and has been used 1,000 times. I'll leave you, the listener, with taking the trip to find the original break that comes from. That's a mixtape track when you use a break that has been used that much and don't do anything with it. You know what I mean? You know what's a played out use of a break? Salam Remy on Nas's Made You Look. That's a played out sample used so immaculately that you saw this is the next shit. When you use somebody everybody used, you better use it to the next dude. Salam Remy's on another level though. Salam should be mad that I even mentioned him in this conversation. You know what I'm saying? That's a next level, near legend producer to me. But songs that were only worthy as a mixtape track with played out breaks become the singles that you bring superstars on, like Damian Marley. And so what happens is that the best you could get because of Guru's performance and the guest appearance is a good song, never a classic. You think a song with Guru, Marley and Primo would have rocked like that? Come on. It's not up to par. If there's a new Gangstar album, I'm sorry, Solar, you're not fit for this. You're not. Your crates are weak. They are not dug for. They are sloppy. The majority of 7.0 is a very lackadaisical, beat-driven mess. It's slow. It's plodding. It's not live at all. You know? And the Jazzmatazz, most of it is played out breaks. And that's why it worked. Guru got so many guest appearances that he made that shit work. And for the life of me, I cannot listen to any of those. And don't get me started about Guru 8.0. Because that album is a mess. That album's a mess, though, and it is sad. It is sad. And it was so bad that people were saying that Guru recorded that while he had the full blown out cancer. And it was you in the book that denied that. But you also said that the tracks that's going to come out is from that. If those tracks before ain't up to par, what about the ones after? I'm dumbfounded here. I'm dumbfounded, though. So what I'm saying is this. Solar, I read the book. It's terrible. It's one of the worst biographies I've ever read in my life. And I've read a lot of them. I've read biographies that other artists hated about themselves, and they were done better than that. I think Frank Sinatra would like Kitty Kelly's biography about him more than this one that you did for yourself, right? It just was a mess, you know what I mean? And it's terrible that if you're the listener out there and you're thinking about buying this book, don't do it. If I could extract it and give it to you, I would. I won't even do it. I won't even do it. I would like it to wither away in my own catalog, in my own collection. You know? If you're going to invest in Gangstar and honor Gangstar, buy one of the albums in a format you don't have. Buy it vinyl. Buy it CD again. You know what I mean? Buy a Gangstar T-shirt from Primo's site. Support Primo's works because they're good. They're worthy. You know what I mean? This is terrible. This is terrible work, and it does nothing for Guru's legacy, and it's a real shame. It's a real shame. And for a lot of this week, it had me sick to my stomach thinking about how I have to read this and break it down. Read it and break it down, that what I'm listening to, Hard to Earn. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, when you call me, Mass Appeal is going to play on my phone. You know what I'm saying? That's what plays on my phone, you know? These are songs that defined what I thought was integrity in hip-hop. These albums, you know what I mean? The Hard to Earn, Step in the Arena, Daily Operation. These are seminal albums in the music. Seminal albums in the 90s of any genre. And then to say that you actually produced some of the owners? Come on. Get the fuck out of here. Are you fucking serious? I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there. I'm sure there'll only be one person that really is pissed off about this. They'll really be mad about the commentary that I had here. You know? But there's a lot of hip-hop. I'm going to leave that segment and go into some early listens. You know, and I make note that when I'm listening to good music that's coming out this year, I call them early listens because I think that an album that is being reviewed, that is being talked about, deserves multiple listens. I think that I would like to think that the respect that you viewers have for me would allow me to comment on albums and works that don't have many listens, because I'm hearing things that maybe you may not catch immediately, and I'm hearing a lot of other stuff that may be putting things in a context, you know? But I'm going to tell you one thing, you know, the first thing I want to talk about is Flea Lord, you know? Talk about something positive. There's a brother named Flea Lord. I don't know. He's a light-skinned brother, so I don't know if he's brown, or I don't know if he's, you know, just light-skinned black brother. I don't know, but he's a brother. And his album Gets Greater Later. I still have to do some research on the production notes and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted to give it a raw listen. One thing I like about Flea Lord, right, is that he comes through the Griselda camp, you know what I'm saying? So he's got the Conways all over the joints, Keisha Plum and all that. Benny is on a track. And but he's not coming like everybody else, although there's glaring similarities. The whole crew has glaring similarities. But what I like about Flea Lord is that, you know, an MC that really honors that. Again, there's a lot of good young brothers that honor like the past and the ones that they adhered to before. You know what I mean? So, you know, for him it was definitely Prodigy. One of the first times that he really gets on is on, I think he was on one of the Tony Touch show on Sirius, and he had Prodigy was with him, and he was, you know, rhyming with alongside Prodigy and stuff, and he held his own. I don't think that where Flea Lord, I think that his gift is in the detail of the crimes that he was around, like the detail of the environment. You know what I mean? There's a lot of crime rhyme MCs, so now it's getting harder and harder to put people in a context. So he's not upper echelon yet, because there's some guys that are really, I mean, the shit that Ito did with Muggs is next level, you know? But the flaw again in that first listen is that the MC that is a stylist of delivery or passion is hard to measure, you know? And Flea Lord is definitely one of them. He doesn't have immediate quotables, but there's a lot of style that engulfs you. You know, his description of the crime nights are vivid. They're wrapped in a lot of intensity. He's got a gruffness, but not too gruff in his his cadence. You know, his clarity is never lost. His flow is naturally in the pocket. It's not forced. He's not trying to out rhyme things. He's not trying to do athletics on the mic, but he's always in the pocket. You know what I mean? I would say like the best examples of whether you can dig his MCing is check out the song Young Starks. you know. And I gotta say, it's probably a reference to Ghostface, you know, just off the first listen, you know what I mean? And but Flea generally, you know, just off the really, I think I gave it 2 good listens, is about the detail. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys have really great detail, whether they be Crime Apple or other people, and Flea's about that detail. So it, you know, today, if you notice, is very exotic. The detail of the crime MC is very, as it's always been, is very exotic to the underground market. You know what I mean? All those suburban kids that they don't know nothing about this shit, so it's very exotic to them. But it's also respected by the few that are relating to it, though. He's got enough detail. I'd say Restoring the Feeling is a good example, you know, of detail. You know, this one I only gave 1 listen. El Camino, he's got a new one called Don't Eat the Fruit. Now, off the first listen, I didn't love it like I like Walking on Water. Man, Walking on Water was really the one that I was feeling. But, so it's going to take that new one a couple of more listens to see where it glides along. But, again, like I was saying before, there's starting to be an underground oversaturation of the drug dealing MC, the crime MC. You know, one thing that I don't like is that all these MCs, I don't know where it started. I'll probably give Griselda that nod, or whoever it is. I'm not going to say. But I'm getting tired of the same ad-libs, though. You know, like everybody with the ad-libs of, you know, doom, 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 and, you know, all that shit, right? The ad-libs are getting annoying because, like, everybody has the same ad-libs, you know? One thing, like, listen to Method Man. You know, some of the best ad-libs you ever hear. Redman, you know what I mean? They're always different, you know what I mean? Shit, Redman 94 has different ad-libs than 96 Redman, you know what I mean? So this is something that you work on. But El Camino, his rhyme flow is very nonstop. He leaves a little space between words, and in this album, he's very into the loop soul grooves, you know what I mean? Not so much the vocals, even though the vocals are there, but mainly the groove. And you can see that on Get a Love, Devotion, and one thing that's always a complaint. I've had this complaint since the dark ages, the 2000s. It's a doom. It's a doom, not MF Doom, but a doom for hip hop the minute the 2000s came, because sampling became a little bit more robotic. They stopped sampling cross genre and really stuck with soul and really stuck with soul jazz. If not really soul jazz, I gotta say, but soul and funk, but mainly got lost in the soul, and that's great. That's an almost limitless resource. But the break beats, they started to get too recognizable once the 2000s started. And I like a lot of guys' albums now are really flipping break beats. In other words, even when they use a drum break that's familiar to me, they're tempoing it different, EQing it different. They're deliberately, you know, altering it. You know, they're doing something to give it a different sound. And we're living in a world where the subgenres that are sticking as the pop model are just repetitive droning works. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like the same drum break in reggaeton, the same repetitive groove in trap, you know. But in this album, Don't Eat the Fruit, a lot of the breaks are tempoed differently, like 9 on My Lap, 2 Grammy for the Radio. And again, it's good, strong MCing. You know, some I want to listen to more. I just, with Camino and Flea, I'm spoiled. I gotta keep it real. I'm spoiled by the depth of Rome Streets and Ito. They are the upper echelon right now. And the depth and the ease by which they MC is on another level. You know what I mean? Last one before we go. Zagnif, my man Zagnif, we had him on the show late last year. Zagnif Nori has a piece, you know, now EP called Blood and Iron. Go to Noble City. That's SCITY. Noble City. Bandcamp. You see the Blood and Iron album. And what I love about it is it's got thick breaks all over, like perfect execution. All the drums are diverse, but there's a particular type of drum they use in different ways a lot. Is that bottom out thud, you know, when it thuds, but it feels real low in the mix. And there's Eyes Wide Open that has that, where Zagnif really flows great. His continuity in Zagnif's continuity in chopped phrases is great. You know what I mean? It's some of the greatest that you hear today. You know, it's what I'm calling now. I'm going to call this now. This is the thing I'm going to call it, though, because a lot of people do this. It's like his version of monotone infinity. You know, his monotone infinity is almost regular for Zagnif, especially on this EP. You know, Zero Tolerance, listen for that. He does that all over that. And there's a nice thud drum. But what they do is they add like a sandpaper hi-hat. I love sandpaper hi-hat, you know what I mean? Where that sounds like more like sandpaper, you know what I mean? It's very dope, you know what I mean? And then of course you got those darts, the death pool darts, you know what I mean? And he goes to Lament, you know. But Noble City though, I love that Zagnif has stuff. I want to hear more from Noble City. I want to hear albums from everybody in that clique though. It's about time. You know, I'm putting the pressure on these brothers. But notwithstanding though, until the next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce, and lovely reminisce, right, willingly, right? I'm your host, Sunni Azala, a.k.a. Skilla Straight Low, and as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.